A group of ritualistic serial killers terrorize a small town, only to end up discovering something far more evil at an all-girls boarding school. On a winter night, a group invades a home and immediately kills the husband. They then stab the wife on the dining table, and Macy uses her blood to paint a symbol on the window. The next morning, Clara wakes with a gasp at Blackvale Academy boarding school. Outside, her classmate Samantha jogs and passes by their teacher, Rose, with a school cook, Jimmy. Later, Rose holds a lecture about the fire that wiped out the town. People believed it was caused by witchcraft, so she asks if Samantha thinks witches are real. The student defends that they're not, but stories like that are born out of people being used as scapegoats. Rose confirms that this is plausible, then continues that only 4 people survived the town fire. These survivors became the founders of the new town where their academy was built. At lunch break, Samantha overhears students talking about the recent murders in the town. Having read the newspaper, Sandy notes that it's the 3rd one in a week, with all the victims being couples. She and her friends hope that the killer will be arrested by the time they return from Christmas break. With that in mind, Sandy turns her attention to Clara and wonders why she never goes home during their break. The group taunts her, and Sandy even attempts to steal Clara's notebook to see what she's drawing. However, the quiet woman snaps at them and leaves. The headmistress then notices the group and confiscates the newspaper. The student claims that she got it from Jimmy, hinting that he's Rose's boyfriend. Because of this, Rose confronts Jimmy, who admits that he gave it to Sandy since she was curious. The teacher warns him that the students tend to use stories like that to scare each other. With a crime in her mind, Rose wonders about going away together, regretting that she stayed at the boarding school. She hopes that she can get a job in the city soon. That evening, Samantha gazes at a photo of her and her mother before placing it gently in her luggage, preparing to go home for winter break. However, the headmistress summons her to her office since her stepfather called. To her horror, her stepfather asks Samantha to stay at the boarding school for the holidays. That evening, Macy's group terrorizes a priest. As Grant holds the man, Doug and Jude check his skin and find a strange mark. Macy points out that it's similar to the other victims, whom they tracked down based on a book. With that, Jude removes the mark and orders Doug and Grant to silence the man. The priest warns them not to let it out before Grant ends him. The next day, the students at Blackvale start going home while Jimmy checks on a diamond ring he bought. Later, after Jimmy takes the last students to the station, Rose tries to cheer Samantha up since she has to stay. This doesn't work, so she encourages the student to talk about her problems. With that, Samantha shares that her stepfather urged her to try out the boarding school for 1 semester, but he hasn't let her come home since. She believes that he just doesn't want to deal with her since her mother's passing, so she laments how she has no control over her life. Her teacher assures her that she'll have a say in her life once she graduates. In the meantime, she encourages her to grab liquor from the basement, excusing that they'll use it to bake pies. With a shrug, Samantha heads to the basement and takes a bottle of vodka but gets startled when Clara appears. Clara hints that she spends a lot of time in the basement, so she leads Samantha into one of the rooms where old books are kept away from the students. While checking the books, she asks how Samantha's mother died. Samantha's surprised that she knows about this, so her classmate explains that she overheard the headmistress talking about it. With that, Samantha shares that her mother died in a car accident. Meanwhile, the murderous group is on a drive with Macy and Jude flirting in the back seat. Doug gets distracted by this, leading to him hitting a deer. As they haul the carcass out of the way, an officer passes by and checks in on them. He then spots the skin that Grant dropped, so he reaches for his gun, only for the burly man to knock him down. The man pulls the trigger anyway and hits Doug on the shoulder. Jude then takes the officer's gun and finishes him. Later, the 3 ladies at the boarding school prepare their dinner. Someone knocks on the door, and Rose answers thinking that it's Jimmy returning. To her surprise, she is greeted by Jude and Doug. The men ask for help since the latter's hurt, but the teacher refuses, sensing trouble. Macy then approaches, claiming to be a former student and proving this by noting exactly where the first aid kit is. Cornered, Rose lets them in and tends to Doug's wound in the kitchen while her students watch. She asks what happened, and Doug admits that he was shot but refuses to explain why. After patching up Doug, the teacher hints that they should leave, but the group starts poking at their dinner, inviting themselves to join. Rose asserts that they can't stay, and when they refuse, she brandishes a pair of scissors at Macy to give her students a chance to run. Once the students escape, Rose heads out to another exit. Samantha rushes to the front door, but Clara sprints back inside. Before the former can turn back, she finds Doug with a knife approaching, forcing her to run after her classmate. The two end up in a classroom where they hide under tables from Doug. When he checks under one table, Samantha ambushes him him with a chair. Despite this, the man pins the woman down but drops his knife in the process. This allows Clara to steal the knife, so Doug puts Samantha in a chokehold and orders her to return his weapon. To Samantha's disappointment, Clara returns the blade. Outside, Jimmy finally returns and gets suspicious about a parked car outside the school. Meanwhile, Rose reaches the office to call for help but finds the line disconnected. She then spots Jimmy outside, so she calls him, only for Grant to knock her boyfriend out while Jude breaks down the office door to catch her. The sadistic group gathers their bound captives around the dinner table. They proceed to eat their meal while the captives can only watch in tears. Pitying her, Macy offers to let Rose have some food but refuses to untie her hands. When she hesitates, Jude forces the teacher's face against a plate of mashed potatoes. Refusing to show fear, Rose declares that she knows they're the murderers terrorizing their town and threatens that the police will soon get them. Jude laughs at this, then brings Jimmy to the teacher before opening the ring box they found in his pocket. He then mockingly pretends to be Jimmy proposing to Rose. Angered, Jimmy breaks his bind to attack Jude, only for the man to swiftly slit his throat. A stunned Rose can only watch her boyfriend die while his killer places the ring on her finger. After dinner, the group gathers the ladies into the lounge to watch them open their Christmas presents. Macy opens Samantha's gift from Rose first, then proceeds to untie the student so she can wear the dress inside. Samantha refuses at first, so Jude commands Clara to stand in front of her to give her privacy. As Samantha changes clothes, she's horrified to see Clara smiling. However, she doesn't know what it means, so she keeps quiet. Jude then tosses Rose's gift for Jimmy to Grant, and Doug opens the gift for Clara, which is a travel book. With that done, the captors prepare for their ritual, though Rose notices Macy putting her knife down. She then quietly tells her students to run to the guard booth where they can call for help, noting that the phone there is connected to a different line. Jude then faces the ladies and recounts how people used to pray at his father's church, yet nearly none of their prayers were answered. This convinced him that God doesn't care about prayers, but instead wants sacrifice. Macy continues that the land where the school is built is sacred. When she was studying there, she found a book on black magic. However, when she was caught with it, she was expelled. Still, she managed to grab a page from the book. They've been following its instructions, including how to commit the murders and returning to Blackvale, where they intend to summon the demon who will grant them power. To do this, Jude needs the blood of the innocent, which their captives will provide. Unbeknownst to them, Rose has been using her engagement ring to cut through her binds. She then begs the group to let the students go, but Jude points out that her students are the perfect candidates for their sacrifice. Finally, Rose breaks free and punches Jude. She then reaches for Macy's knife, but Jude pulls her back and knocks her out. He then takes the woman into the summoning circle and brandishes his knife. Samantha tries to rush to her teacher, but Doug grabs her, forcing her to watch Jude stab Rose in the heart. With the sacrifice fulfilled, Jude looks around, confused that nothing is happening. Macy defends that they did everything right, making Doug wonder if they killed people for no reason. Frustrated, Jude and Macy go to the basement to find the spellbook, leaving the students with Grant and Doug. While waiting, Clara asks Doug what he wants from the demon once they summon it. He refuses to answer, so she taunts him by wondering if a demon is a genie that just grants wishes. This leads to Grant and Doug arguing if the ritual is real. Grant believes in it since Macy had been right about the marks on their victims, but Doug thinks they just got matching tattoos. He regrets believing Macy, so Clara assumes that he followed the woman's commands because he wanted her. Doug doesn't deny this, noting that each of them wants the pretty woman. However, Clara points out that Jude is in charge, which Doug denies, claiming that he's just the theatrical one. Seeing a weak point, Clara wonders what Macy and Jude are up to now that they're alone. This angers Doug, so he insists on getting a drink. Samantha tells him that there's vodka in the basement, so he leaves the students in Grant's care. While he leaves and the other two reach the books in the basement, Clara suddenly encourages Grant to release Samantha. She eerily notes that he's different from the others since he's a soldier who needs a mission. The student then approaches the man and whispers to him that hell is waiting for him. In the basement, Jude finds Macy's yearbook photo, complimenting her. This leads to them kissing. Upstairs, Clara removes her dress and Grant is shocked to see her carved skin. The woman then presses his hand on her mark, then commands him to release Samantha. Meanwhile, Jude whispers to Macy that he can feel the demon's power. He then chokes Macy, declaring that she was successful but they still need something more. Scared, the woman reaches for a candlestick and slams it on Jude's head, forcing him to release her. He's confused as if he doesn't remember what he did, so Macy tells him that he's not acting like himself. This convinces Jude that the demon's power is in him. Still, Macy points her knife at him, threatening him until he leaves. The frightened woman then returns to the spellbook to continue reading it. Doug arrives and checks in on her, having heard the commotion earlier. Macy brushes off his concern, then searches for what Jude meant by something more. Upstairs, Grant leads Samantha away, while her classmate insists on staying behind to keep the group busy. Samantha weeps, unable to leave her friend behind, but Clara warns that if she doesn't leave, she'll die. With that, Clara returns to the lounge while Grant closes the door for her. Alone with Grant, Clara asks him about his time in the war. He shares that his entire platoon died in a massacre while he hid under a pile of bodies. Clara figures that he wishes he died trying to save them, and Grant confirms this. The woman assures him that it's not too late to get his wish. She then tasks him with a mission and paints his face with blood. Meanwhile, Macy finally realizes that the instructions she got weren't for a summoning ritual. It was for unbinding a demon. This means the demon has been there all along and lured them to set itself free. As she learns this, Clara celebrates above the supposed summoning circle, revealing herself as the demon. Elsewhere, Jude paces the halls, still searching for the demon. He then glances at the mirror, wondering if the demon has taken him as a vessel. Because of this, he uses his knife to carve his chest, unaware that Clara is manipulating him into insanity. Downstairs, Macy realizes that she recognizes Clara, so she checks her yearbook and finds the same student looking exactly as she does now. They then look at the class photos through the years and confirm that Clara is in each of them. Knowing that Clara is the demon, Macy and Doug decide to abandon the mission. However, Jude blocks them, declaring himself as the demon's vessel. He then accuses the two of conspiring against him and calls Doug a dog for following Macy's commands. Pissed, Doug punches Jude, but the man throws him down and breaks his liquor bottle. He threatens the man, but Grant pulls Jude off of him. With Grant looking dazed and bloodied, Macy hides in the lounge, only to be confronted by Clara. The demon compliments her for figuring things out, but declares that they can't leave. Grant then holds Macy in a chokehold until she passes out. Outside, Samantha rushes into the guard booth, where she finds the guard dead. She uses the phone to call for help, and the officer tells her to stay in the booth until they arrive. However, the student worries that Clara might be killed. Soon, Macy finds herself bound with her accomplices around the dinner table, much like what they'd done to their captives earlier. Clara is at the head of the table with Grant standing behind her. Jude commands Grant to release him, still thinking that he's the demon's vessel. However, Clara mocks him, saying that he did a good job sacrificing the weak in her name. Macy realizes that the fire that initially burned down the town was due to people summoning her. Clara confirms this but adds that the townsfolk trapped her afterward. With no choice, she used what little power she had left to create her body so she could hide in plain sight. She then discreetly manipulated the teachers and students, like how she led Macy to that book. Clara thanks them for restoring her power, but now she needs the blood of the guilty to free herself. However, she can't kill them directly, so they have to kill each other. With that, she chooses Macy first. Grant demands her to make an offering, otherwise he'll have to take it. The woman begs Jude to help her, but the man finally realizes that he's helpless, so he looks away while Grant uses a knife to cut Macy's hair. The man then cuts his hand to offer his blood to Clara. Doug is next, so the man declares his love for Macy, thinking it's the end. He then offers his blood like how Grant did, so the demon makes his binds disappear. To his horror, however, Grant cuts his fingers and adds them to the offering. It's Jude's turn, but he demands his reward from the demon first. He wants power, influence, and fame. So Clara promises him that their deaths will be famous and discussed for generations. With that, Grant adds Jude's ear to the offering. Unbeknownst to them, Samantha returns with an axe, thinking that she'll be saving her friend. However, she sees the photos that Macy marked, revealing to her that Clara's been a student at the school for a very long time. Defeated, Macy apologizes to her accomplices for leading them there just because she wanted to know if the spellbook was real. As she cries, Clara points out their hypocrisy since they didn't mind death when they killed their victims. Tired, she orders Grant to complete the task, so he stabs Doug. He then approaches Jude, who still tries to command the man. This doesn't work and Grant ends him. With only Macy left, she begs the man to escape with her, promising to go with him anywhere he wants. This somehow works, revealing that Grant also likes the woman. Clara, however, points out that Macy is just using him to escape. Torn between his mission and his love, Grant stabs himself instead. Just then, Samantha arrives but realizes that the tables have turned. To Macy's surprise, the demon releases her, so she runs. The confused Samantha then approaches her friend, though as she chants, she confirms that Clara is the demon. Meanwhile, Macy stops in the hallway upon seeing an apparition of Clara running at her. The demon uses illusions to confuse her target, but Samantha shakes her, begging her to stop. Pissed, Clara heads out to go after Macy. Samantha asks if she's going to kill the woman, but the demon explains that she can't. Macy has to do it herself, so she'll drive her mad until she does. Clara then questions why she returned, so Samantha explains that she thought her classmate was going to die. Clara scoffs as she wished she could die. Instead, she was stuck at the school for too long, meeting millions of women like Samantha. The student admits she thought they were friends, but Clara ridicules her mortality and her worrying about being stuck there for Christmas, whereas she's been stuck there for centuries. Clara's rage causes the building to shake, but Samantha tells the demon that she cares about her. The demon challenges this by ordering Samantha to let her out. Just then, Macy finally gets the front door open, only for Samantha to stab her in the back. With the ritual complete, Clara walks out of the building for the first time in centuries. Clara's surprised that Samantha actually killed the woman for her. With sirens heading their way, the student wonders what the demon will do next. After much thought, Clara invites her friend to join her. With that, the two watch the police discover the Christmas killer's bodies from afar. Even in their deaths, Jude's wish of being famous is granted. Doug got Macy to acknowledge his feelings, Grant became a hero by sacrificing his life for someone, and Macy finally learned the truth about the book she read years ago.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.